Tony from CassetteComeback.com, and today we're going to look at an odd cassette. Yes, and I'll tell you why it's odd. Well, let's start here. Do we like this cassette? The AR in its 1988 guise, which I think is my favourite guise. But look at that. I love getting cassettes with all price stickers on. John Menzies. If you're not in the UK, John Menzies is basically was a newsagent, a bit like W.H. Smith, but it was originated from Scotland. But I love John Menzies. We had one in my local town, and back in the 80s, they used to sell videos and CDs, blanks, computers, computer games, magazines. Brilliant. I used to spend a lot of time in John Menzies, so seeing price stickers like that is really nostalgic, and I really like it. So, yeah. I think £1.59 in 1988 is a good price for an AR, but, I wouldn't have bought an AR in 1988 because it's a Type 1, and Type 1s, you get 10 for a fiver, URs and Ds and all that. So I wouldn't have bought it, but the AR has come to symbolise, I think, the stereotypical superferric tape. When you think superferric, you usually think of an AR. And this is the first iteration of the AR because the AR before this, well, there wasn't an AR, there was an ADX, and, there was the AD, but, 88 seems to be the first iteration of a cassette with AR branding. So, why is this odd? Well, let's rewind the clock back, and let's go back to 1979, and we've got the 1979 TDK D90. And if we look on the back, it's normal. We've got this frequency characteristics, nice and flat. A brilliant version of the D90 that I don't think anyone say, oh, I don't like these. These are good. But then, back in 79, we had this as well. We had the AD as well. And it wasn't unique to 1979, but I'm just using the 1979 models. And again, this is the extended high end. And if we look on the back, compared to the D, the AD has better frequency response at the higher ranges. But then we've got this cassette, and this is why I'm saying it's an odd video, because this is the OD, you see, OD, odd. And this again is optimum dynamic, and if we look at it, it compares itself to the D again, but again this one slightly rising. Let's have a look at. Yeah, you see, the difference seems to be that in the lower frequency range, the AD matches a D and only seems to kick its ass in the higher frequency range, whereas the OD beats the D all the way through. Linear, but still spiking. So, this is maybe the 70s version of the AR, because as we all know in TDK lineup, it went D, then AD, and then ADX or AR, and then ARX. So this is, at the time, TDK's top of the line Type 1. So since I've never actually recorded on one of these, because they're not common, we're going to record on this one. I've chosen this one because this one's already slightly torn. So, let's unwrap it. I love this. I mean, this thing here, this bit of black has not seen daylight for 40 years. And when we open this up, this cassette inside here, if it isn't full of mould, because it might be, you never know. Ready? Give it some daylight. This has not seen light for 40 years. And there we go. It sees the light. 40 years. First person to touch this in 40 years. It always bends my head a bit that it's laid dormant so long. And I'm the first person to do it. Let's have a smell. Oh, it's got that characteristic TDK smell. Yeah, these have been well stored. There's not a hint of mould in this, so I'm looking forward to this. But yeah, this is the classic TDK shell that the D and the SA and pretty much everything apart from the MA came in. And it's a very nice looking shell. I mean, that sort of branding there. Let's have a see what it says inside the J card. The TDK OD cassette gives you clear, lifelike sound reproduction with well-balanced sound characteristics for all types of music, recording from a higher sensitivity and mol through the complete frequency range. So this is achieved by the new Optima ferric oxide super refined high resonance magnetic particles. So what I'm going to think there is, because, right, you know, we talk about super ferrics and normally that characterizes themselves by, you know, having darker tape because it's cobalt doped, which is essentially the same as type 2. Yeah, I forgot me BIC. One day I'll remember. But the likes of, say, the Fuji FR1 Super, which I think is one of the best super ferrics of the lot, the tape in it is brown, it's not the dark blue or black. And likewise here, if we look, this is a very brown tape. Nice and calendared, nice and shiny and straight, but it's very brown. So what I think from what I've read and what I understand is what this means is, you know, it says super refined. What this means is that it's not cobalt doped, but it has smaller ferric particles. So it's more densely packed, which means it can carry more signal. At least that's how I understand it anyway. Let's see if there's anything else on here. Tips on handling it. Unique dimple and bubble sheet for accurate tape running. Double clamp for better hub circularity. Okay. So yeah, TDK's top of the range, Type 1 from the late 70s. So enough gassing. Let's go and see how good this performs.
The truth.
Okay, so for this video I'm going to use a deck I haven't used in one of my videos before. I'm going to use my Nakamichi ZX-9. And as you see this, I'm sure a lot of you were asking, hang on a second, you've got a Dragon up there, you've got a Revox there. Why the hell do you want a ZX-9 as well? Are you some sort of crazy tape cassette hoarding type person? Well, yeah, but not quite. I mean, the way I look at it is, you know, I've got a reputation to uphold here on YouTube and I want to explore all the best that cassettes can offer, and I've read a lot that the ZX-9 is the greatest recording deck ever. Yes, I know there are Tambergs and, you know, Luxman L pages. I mean, the Tamberg 9 series looks absolutely amazing, but they made like 400, and if you're lucky enough to get one, you've got to get it serviced in Norway, and it just ain't happening. I mean, the bottom line is, you know, ask me about this deck and say, well, so is it better than the Dragon? Is it better than the Revox? And the bottom line is, I don't know. The point is, at this sort of level, the quality is fantastic on all of them. You take a cassette that's been recorded on one of these, and I listen to it, say, in my Walkman, and I can't remember what deck it's been recorded on. It either sounds one of two things, good or bad. You know, it either sounds bad because it's distorted, or it sounds muddy because it's got a loss of treble, or it's got a loss of bass, or it's got too much bass, or whatever. It sounds bad, but if the bass sounds good, the treble sounds good, the mid sounds good, and it's not Dropout City, then it's a good recording. And it doesn't matter which deck it came from, because at that moment in time you've got nothing to compare it to. It's just a good recording. This makes very good recordings, that makes very good recordings, that makes very good recordings, and because I am a crazy tape hoarder guy, I can say that my CR7 down there also makes very good recordings. So this is the point. Don't get lost in specs or, you know, try to play cassette deck top trumps on the internet. Be happy with what you got. If what you're recording sounds good, then it sounds good. I mean, I won't lie to you, I've got a NAC DR10, yeah, that's another 3-head discrete head NAC. I've used it in videos, and honest to goodness, if you gave me a recording that had been done on that on a cassette that it calibrated to nicely and said, hey, this was done on a ZX-9, I wouldn't be able to argue with you, because it would sound good and that's it. But anyhow, enough gassing, let's have a look at this deck, because I know a few of you might be curious about it, so we'll go through a few things while we're at it. I mean, the first thing when I got it, I thought it had been dropped in transit, because when I came to look at it, there's, you know, there's no glass in the door, and I thought, oh no, has a glass fallen out of the door? And I was looking in the box for it, and then I decided to use Google, and as it turns out, the ZX-7 and the ZX-9 do not have glass or plastic in the door. It is open because these get pretty hot, and this is designed for ventilation. I don't know how to read that, but so if you want to have a little look at what we've got on the front, let's just close this. So over here we've got, as it says, a reset button for the counter, we've got the power button, we've got the eject button. Super tuned edition. I mean, you know, again, between ZX-7, ZX-9, which is better? This is supposedly an upgrade. I don't know, but I'd hazard to think that a ZX-7 sounds probably just the same to all our ears. I mean, I know personally that 15 kilohertz, I was doing some test tones. I could tell there was a tone playing, but I couldn't hear it. It's just like there was a click and I knew it was playing. So I can't hear above 15 kilohertz anymore anyway. So main control panel, obviously rewind, play, fast forward, pause, stop, and record. Then we've got the master fader where you can fade in and fade out. Got the record mute now. This is the calibration controls. We've got reset. We've also got the bias, which is 15 kilohertz, which I can't hear. Level 400 hertz, and below there, the recording azimuth, which we'll get to. And then over here, we've got, a bit like the Dragon, we've got the bias and level calibration pots for left and right for the 3 different tape types. EX is type 1, SX is type 2, ZX is type 4. We've got output, which is pretty low because I'm going to be capturing this. And then we've got independent left and right master inputs. And then we go up to the top. We've got the memory timer, which I don't tape off radio, so there's no use. EQ select, so you know you can record a type 2 tape at 120 if you want, or a type 1 tape at 70, up to you. Dolby being CNR, there's no H8 Pro on this. The MPX filter for when you're taping off the radio, and the monitor between the tape and the source. And then we've got these nice big VU meters. Like I say, at the top is a calibration point, and in the middle is the actual decibels, because I was recording when I first got this thinking, oh, it's only peaking at 3 up here, but it was actually peaking at 7. So yeah, that's a little whoops front view of the deck. But let's calibrate up this OD now, and I'll show you how the calibration process works on this, because it's probably the most laboured calibration process of any tape deck I've used. So put your tape in. Now what you do is you record, pause it, and then you press in this azimuth calibration, and once you do that, it starts recording. So if we're looking now, we can see this red light is on, which means that the azimuth is actually where it needs to be. Otherwise, you get a green light here and a green light here, and if you get the green light here, it means that you have to turn it anti-clockwise. If you get it there, you have to turn it clockwise, this little dial here, until it eventually goes to the red. Once it's in the red, we've got the level calibration. As we can see, I've already recalibrated this, so it's at calibration level. Then we've got the bias. And as you can see, the bias is there, and it's pretty solid. And let's just turn it on the right, just down a little bit, a little smidgy. But there we go, pretty solid. So the bias is fine, the level's fine, and the azimuth is fine. So this OD is all calibrated up. So let's put some music through it. Now this tune is something I literally knocked up earlier. I was listening to a station called Heart 90s, and it had a lot of 90s dance on, and it's all got stuck in my head, and I sort of composed a little tune in my head. It's a bit chicane-y, if you know what I mean by chicane. So straight out of the block, it's only 2 minutes long, but I think it'll be a good little test for this tape. So let's have a listen and see how this old schooler performs. Now, I'm not going to try and batter it like a Super Ferric. I'm going to try and keep this peaking at +3. That's about it. Because you've got to remember, it's 40-year-old this, but let's see how TDK's Premier Type 1 from 1979 actually sounded. Okay, that sounded pretty good to me, but I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's give it a fair crack to see how much you can really do. I'm going to turn Dolby B on, because it was hissy, but it's a 70s ferret. What do you want? But let's see what Dolby B can do to this. So I'm just going to cue up the tune again. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, it's queued up again. So let's have a listen to it again, but with Dolby B on, and see how it performs then. Right, sorry if I'm boring you now. I'm going to turn Dolby off. I'm going to see how much this take can take, because it sounded really good there with the Dolby on, didn't it? I mean, the hiss went, sounded great. I know I didn't want to push this because it's a 70s ferric, but I'm not going to play the whole song again. But let's just see if I crank this up a bit. Let's see if we can get this at 7, peaking to 10. Let's see how we can get it sounded. Let's have another do, okay? Without Dolby, of course. Oh, here we go. It's already distorting. Yeah, well, that was a short but sweet experiment, but as you could tell there, it was starting to distort. So, yeah, it's a 1970s ferric, not been touched for 40 years, but keeps it around +3, maybe just hitting the odd peak at 5, sounded great. Dolby B, sounded great. Good old TDK. So there we go. Is the OD going to give this bad boy a run for its money? No. Different tape formulations, different decades, different eras. As we heard there, this isn't what we'd class as super ferric that can take all that level, same level as a metal. It doesn't. It distorts above 3. But saying that, below 3, yes, there was hiss when there was no Dolby, but it took it and it sounded great. And like I say, this is 40-year-old. This is what a 40-year-old cassette sounds like. Put the Dolby B on, sounded brilliant. And people say, oh, how long the cassette's going to last still? Well, like I keep saying, I've got USB keys that didn't last 2 years. This has been sat dormant for 40 years. Pull it out, put it in a tape deck. performs like it did when new. Is it significantly better than, say, the AD? I don't know, probably not. But it is significantly rarer and more interesting. But like I say, 40-year-old TDK, I love this 79 light up. This was a really good cassette I was really happy with. And the ZX-9 did well with it. Like I say, rock stable azimuth, rock stable Bison levels. Can't go wrong. So thanks for watching. Now, I'm going to say something now where I disappear up my own bum a bit, but I've got this YouTube channel and I've got my cassette comeback page, and that's got a Facebook page, and I've also got a personal Facebook account, and I've got a Twitter account, I've got an Instagram account. I don't want you to be offended, but I literally get inundated now with people asking for advice. All I'll say is I've got 2 groups, yeah? I'll show you the link to the main one at the end, but if you search on Facebook for blank audio cassettes or compact cassette decks, those are 2 groups I run that I admin. Lots of great members in there. We try and be extra friendly. If you've got questions because you want advice on cassettes or advice on decks, then please go there and ask. I'm sorry, but I don't accept friends requests from people I don't know, and I just simply don't have the time because I'm a full-time working man. I've got children. This is a hobby that I dedicate as much time to as I can, but I simply don't have the time to answer all of your individual queries regarding should I buy this deck, what deck do you recommend for this, what tape. I'm really sorry. That's why I've set the groups up. There's loads of guys in there, very knowledgeable. They'll be able to help you. So please don't take offence if I don't get back to you or I don't see your message. It's just simply I just don't have the time, I'm afraid. So please don't be offended, but that's just the way it is. But other than that, thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, happy taping. Bye bye.